On this podcast, you'll find interviews with high-performing, successful individuals in life sciences. On a weekly basis, we cover their proven methods, principles, strategies, and mindsets to implement new technologies that scale to meet the needs of people in our world.
Welcome to this episode of Life Science Success. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Don Davis, and I'm a digital marketer. And this episode is sponsored by D3 Digital Marketing.
This episode of Life Science Success is brought to you by D3 Digital Media Marketing. Dive into the digital world with confidence and creativity on your side. D3 Digital Media Marketing is your all-in-one solution for making a lasting impact online. From the vibrant, engaging world of social media marketing, podcasts, and webinars to the strategic depths of website development, SEO, pay-per-click, email, and content marketing, we tailor our approach to fit your unique brand story. Let's elevate your presence, connect with your audience, and drive success together. Your digital journey starts here. Visit d3digitalmedia.com to learn more.
And so with that, let's bring in our guest. So today on the Life Science Success Podcast, we have the pleasure of speaking with Christian Engstrom, the visionary CEO of Bullpen. With a rich background in life sciences and a passion for fostering collaborative success, Christian leads Bullpen Ventures, an elite club dedicated to helping members thrive. And so with that, Christian, welcome to the podcast. I greatly appreciate having you here.
Hey, Don. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. Yeah. So would you mind just tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself, but also in that, what sort of led you to the point of wanting to create Bullpen?
Sure. I would say first, I'm located in Minnesota. Minnesota, as the rest of the country calls it. It's not known as a huge life sciences region, but we are maybe the most dense medical device life sciences region in the world. We have the University of Minnesota, Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, and we do tend to be a leader in life sciences. And I think for me, that gently brought me into this industry through the connections in the Twin Cities. And I don't have a pedigree. I think like as yourself, we tend to work with a lot of folks in this industry that have PhDs and advanced degrees. That is not my pedigree. Mine is business and operations. And so I bring a little different bend to the life sciences world. And I've done a number of startups. I just actually exited my last startup called Evia Bio. In the process, I needed to bring resources to the companies that I was leading. And for someone in Minnesota, that can be difficult. And when you're in Boston, you can, skip a rock and find the next happy hour. When you're in Minnesota, sometimes you have to do that for yourself. So that was my objective with starting the Bullpen, was to really network with folks that weren't available to me in Minnesota, and to bring resources to, at the time, my startup that I was working on.
I love that sort of picture though as well. One, I agree with certain areas of the country. It seems like you could just stretch an arm out and probably find somebody new to network with. You don't even need to necessarily skip a rock, but at the same time, this whole idea of part of your journey being, hey, look, I didn't see this anywhere. There was a gap, and nobody else is creating it, so why not take the lead and create it yourself? To me, it seems like a real game changer for a lot of different businesses that are, feel somewhat isolated and also want a broader network, across.
Sure, it was very tactical. I think the vision has grown, especially with the number of leaders that have came to the Bullpen and contributed to the vision and said, "This is what I think I want to see in a club." Or something that would support me and my mission, or something that I can support. And I think a lot of people are looking for that authentic, vehicle to enable them to get back to each other. I mean, the folks involved with Bullpen have amazing stories. They might not have been heard of yet, but they have deep academic connections, deep technical connections, deep sometimes just social networking connections that when we say as a whole, we can support each other in every area, not just the one or two where we're very deep. Um, so yes, there was a need for it. Right around the time when COVID hit, we were all saying, well, how are we going to spend our time? And I got dragged into some of my first Skype or Zoom meetings at the time. And thought, well, this is cool. I could talk to anybody. And I started calling up some of my contacts, and we had some, discussions like everybody did. And then that built to 2 or 3 of us. And suddenly 50 to 100 people were showing up to these meetings that were about these great topics. When Silicon Valley Bank had trouble, you remember the market wasn't sure how to react. We had 150 leaders just come together and talk about it. This is what we're doing. Yeah. This is how we're moving our money or handling our money, or we're sticking with SVB, or reasons why we should. All these insecurities when you're in the lead seat in an organization, you don't have anybody to talk to about them. And so it's evolved into a support group for CEOs and investors. And we've had folks helping us out. So I'm really appreciative.
Yeah. So I guess tell me a little bit more about your career journey. I mean, you said that you were more of an ops guy, focused on businesses, not necessarily focused, in the, bench science and things like that. I'd be interested in hearing a little bit more about, your journey and what led you, to even want to lead companies or lead the bullpen.
Well, I'll tell you that, like many people, and I'm going to follow the bullpen analogy here. I played sports in college, and I was a baseball player, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do coming out of school. And I knew I wanted to be competitive, and operations in a way enables you to be very competitive and to execute at a high level. So that for me was an attraction. I got into Lean and Six Sigma and improving businesses and mapping out value streams and eliminating waste. And I did that in more of the industrial world. I did it for Ford Motor Company. I did it for a company called Toro Company. And I honestly felt unfulfilled. I felt like I needed a career that tied to something more than golf equipment and cars. And so I started an ad agency, much, like yourself, smaller, not as good as yours, of course. Yours is fantastic. But I tried, and we focused on medical device and health care clinics. And we won a bunch of business. And through that, I became the COO of the largest clinic group for pain management at the time. And they had some challenges, and I joined as COO, and we turned it around and sold it to private equity in a couple of years. We more than doubled revenue, and it was through operational execution. And I started to notice that while these docs and these PhDs are brilliant in their areas, they still had these verticals of weakness, and there was a place for me to fit. So from there, I went on and I took on a phase 3 immunotherapy program that was troubled, and unfortunately put it into bankruptcy. But we spun out a contract manufacturer of immunotherapies, and then after a couple of years, exited there. I moved on, did some consulting. In my consulting practice, I fundraised and pursued strategic partnerships, and then went on to advise and join another company, Avia Bio. And eventually I realized that, hey, I like some things. I like the early stage. I don't like it when we raise a Series A and we get a board. That for me, some people really like that stage. There are a bunch of CEOs who want to jump in when you raise that Series A round and take over. No one really wants to do, not many want to do that early stage fundraising, early stage partnering. All of that was hard, but I really enjoy it. So that's where I'm focused. And now I'm here. I'm on your podcast. It's been amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to know what you're good at and know what you enjoy and sort of draw boundaries. I mean, why continue to do things, that, that aren't a joy to you? I mean, I certainly enjoy recovering businesses. I've always liked that, sort of this thing's on the fringe of, not functioning anymore, and let's try and recover the business. But I also know that when the company makes that transition from private to public, or even getting acquired, it's not a pleasant experience, right? And so I've told CEOs that I've worked for in the past, I'm like, look, whenever you get to this milestone, that's my exit. So I just very clearly would like to leave the organization as well.
It's interesting. It is good to know what your strengths are and to be humble about your weaknesses and have a network around you that when you identify yourself as entering into an area of weakness, where you can simply get over this ego of I can solve everything and turn it over to a partner, a friend, a spouse, in your life, something like that, where they have strength. And as a CEO, sometimes we think that we have to solve every problem, and we're not sure who to ask for help. It's hard to ask down.
Mm.
It's really hard to ask up for some groups to go to your board and say, I have a problem. So we do it with each other in the bullpen. That's been really enjoyable.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the bullpen and what it's about. I mean, I sort of glommed onto this mission that you have around the organization as well. That hey, look, everybody that is a part of the organization really is trying to help somebody else, and that's really kind of where I focused. My attention is one, how can I help the organization, but two, how can I more broadly help the members and be a part of this as well. So just tell me a little bit more about what was the means and the philosophy behind this idea of helping people.
Well, it's something we all have currency for. We can, no matter where we're at, we can offer help to each other, and it's a pretty beautiful thing to be asked to help somebody if it's done the right way. So we have a gift in the bullpen that's given to us when somebody asks us to help. I needed help. I was going to J.P. Morgan conferences, and I thought this is really hard and expensive, and there's so much going on. I don't know how to talk to the people that I need to talk to. So I reached out to Phil Morgan, Phil Ebner at J.P. Morgan. We kind of combined that. That's good. He's becoming synonymous with a great organization. But Phil Ebner was my co-founder, and he happened to play college baseball as well. And his dad played for the St. Louis Cardinals. And I said, I have this idea of a bullpen. That's where pitchers in baseball share ideas with each other, review each other's work, critique each other's approach, root for each other when the other person's out on the mound. It's a sacred place. If you're an outfielder, you don't go into that bullpen. If you're the other team, you stay away. It's a crew of people who are really there to protect each other and to coach each other. So I said, Phil, we need this for JP Morgan conference. Nobody knows what they're doing. It's not just me. And he said, I have a whole portfolio of companies that don't know what they're doing. Let's do it. So that first year we had, I don't know, over 100 people showing up to these meetings. And we found out that there's a hole here. And then if you look at other conferences, we're preparing right now for Bio International Convention. That's one of the largest conferences in the world for life sciences. And it's the same thing. What do I do? How do I connect? Where do I find my people? So we did some initial events to kind of gather life science investors and senior executives at the end, and that formed a club, and it since has evolved. Today, there's more than 1,500 social members, which means they get an invite to our virtual meetings with our panels. We had a panel yesterday on M&A and exits. You were there. And then there are club members who have paid a fee, which basically enables us to put some administration people in place to run the club, and they get to show up in person at high-end networking clubs in San Francisco and San Diego. We're going to New Orleans in October, and we together bring in KOLs, key opinion leaders, and other interesting folks to interact with that move our businesses forward. And then we go back out into the regular conference, the large conference, and retreat back and forth into our clubhouse. So that's the concept. And the feedback has been the fuel. The money certainly hasn't been the reason to do this thing. We're not all that interested in gouging entrepreneurs. And I will say, I'm not going to talk about what's out there. This came out of maybe paying $3,000, $5,000 a number of times to these conferences that claim to do these things for you, but they don't. And it's a big money grab. So another piece of the bullpen is, it's like, we have a new logo or a new motto. It's by the people for the people. I think is it's that type of group. It's not for profit. It's not for pulling more and more, bigger and bigger together. It's about being concentrated with dedicated people who want to help each other.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. It's so important, and especially in our industry, right? I mean, it feels like, every conference is, 2,500 to, over $3,000. And, we just, repeatedly are, having people pay for lots of different things. And it's a real interesting thing whenever you're in a market where you can't get your company funded. And here, all of a sudden, you have to decide, on a very thin budget, whether or not if you can go to different places. And, as an entrepreneur, I would imagine, it's got to be really challenging whenever your company and everything, you can't even barely pay for the science, let alone, let's go to the next conference just to talk to people and hopefully find the next investor, right?
I think that's right. And I would ask that and they're probably not, if these other organizations are listening, to consider that. Find ways to be a little bit more budget friendly. Or what we're trying to do in the bullpen is rely on our sponsor partners to cover costs instead of the entrepreneur. Because, not only in an entrepreneurial life cycle, for the individual, not only are they oftentimes struggling for resources to move the company forward, but they're struggling for resources for their family.
Mm.
They're trying to make it work. They're trying to move from the lab to a startup, from a consistent salary to no salary. Those are. I mean, I'm living that, and it's right now still as I'm moving through my startups. It's not my job that I used to have with a big company with great benefits and a check that showed up every week. It's not that way. And so I think that as you move through the ranks, it's nice that we have some folks that are well funded in our group, the bullpen. We have folks at Mayo Clinic and folks at Novo Nordisk and Novartis and Philips and Medtronic, big guys that spend the time. But many of those folks have sat in the entrepreneur's shoe, and they've in this has worn this entrepreneur's shoe. Insert the analogy. It's a little early, Don, and are empathetic towards that and find ways to resource the entrepreneur. And by the way, the entrepreneur can also help big pharma, can help big device by simply saying, how can I help you? And
Mhm.
we get those requests. So going on, but it's all about helping each other.
No, I agree with you, and I think it's important. I think it's important to talk about these things because there are a lot of little companies that are on the brink of not making it, through this, next few months. There are plenty of companies that are finding some funding, but at the same time, it's a very tough market, and having people that have been there. I was talking to, I mean, the interview that I just did last night was with Sabrina Johnson. They did a reverse merger. And I said, I don't care what business school that you went to, the idea of learning about reverse mergers and sort of, what it takes to actually do that as a company that's bringing breakthrough technologies or drugs to the market is something that, most people wouldn't have. And so having that, arrow in your quiver and being able to say, hey, look, I know how this works, and here's how you might be able to find funding this way is only going to come through other experienced entrepreneurs, I feel like. And she admitted during the interview that she had somebody coach her along. I guess what I'd like to dive into next is, a little bit more of kind of the success stories of the bullpen. I mean, have you seen, people kind of come out and just go, hey, look, I'm taking this away from this group, and what are those success stories?
I think you have to look at it from the individual member, and they all need different things. So I'm first going to talk about our sponsors. We have an event going on at Bio for 4 days, Sunday through Wednesday, and we have a really strong sponsor group, and the feedback from them has been that it's almost been a reverse flow, that when they put themselves in the group and they make these connections, they're getting requests to bring their services to our members. So that's been really positive, actually, and we can quantify that, and we have quantified that. So I think the idea that you don't have to have a booth and brochures and expensive ads, that you just need to be human, is being proven out with our sponsors. And then from the member standpoint, yeah, I think the success stories are more along the lines of Mayo Clinic spending a full day in the bullpen at JP Morgan and sourcing 30 meetings from our companies. That is meaningful. Andy Danielson and Sammy Youssef have really committed to the bullpen, and when they talk about what they're looking for, they're very succinct and pointed, and they say, "Here's your opportunity. Come work with us." And our members can do that. So for me, that's a huge success. One big success that I'll never forget is at the Yacht Club. We had Rare Disease Day kind of to kick off JP Morgan in January. And we had the Emily Whitehead Foundation bringing in a number of different C-level folks of companies that were catering to a rare disease. And there were 9 to 10 startup CEOs who started companies because their children had rare diseases. So like from an entrepreneur perspective, I'm aspirationally saying I want to help the world. This entrepreneur is saying I want to save my child. And being around that and seeing the heroic nature, like really in your face, of what we're trying to do as an industry was very moving. And then midday, we had a woman show up from the Bay Area who had heard we were doing this, and had been told to come to the Yacht Club. And we were, it's January. We had just gone through Christmas and New Year's, and she came in and she said, on December 21st, something like that, 4 days before Christmas, she found out her child had a rare terminal disease, a 4-year-old, and she was desperate, looking for people to help her. And boy, did she come to the right place. I went to the front desk and checked her in, and tears were in her eyes. But within 20 minutes, she had a group of parents that were in the same boat, and they were kind of, holding hands and talking through what needed to happen. And I think our members noticed this, and they saw what was happening, and they're whispering, and these folks are going to get other resources. She walked out of there with funding, board members, and a commitment from the Emily Whitehead Foundation to help her write her business plan. And she already had some funding she brought, and that I thought was a minor miracle what happened that day. And we talked about it as a group in the bullpen afterwards. And that's the opportunity. If we open ourselves up to helping each other, not make it be about what we want all the time, that part will come, because people are going to want to help us, right? But if we open our hearts up and in our networks to solving problems like Cece had, that's what the mom's name was, we can do some amazing things. So I don't know if that's good enough of a
Yeah.
success story.
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing. So let's talk a little bit about Bio 2024. You have a big event there, and we've been talking a lot about sort of all of the activities that you have planned as well. Very interested in having you share that to our audience as well, for anybody that is going to Bios, just so that they're at least interested in terms of the things that are going on outside of the showroom floor.
Absolutely. So a mile away from the Bio International Convention headquarters at the San Diego Convention Center is a car club, one of the premier car clubs in the world. It's called the Garage Collective. You can go to our website at bullpen.ventures and explore a little bit more, but it's an amazing place filled with really high-end cars. I'm not a huge car guy, but it turns out some people in our group are very, very excited to interact with, cars they don't get to see elsewhere, Lamborghinis and Ferraris and antiques and brand new cars. So that's the setting. At JP Morgan conference, we were at the Golden Gate Yacht Club. Now we're at a car club. And so our club goes to clubs near the convention center. We have 4 days. We'll be in the Gaslamp Quarter Sunday. We'll be at Margaritaville Hotel. We're partnering with Silicon Valley Bank. Who else is involved? NYC EDC, which is the mayor's office, New York City Economic Development Council, is sponsoring that. Oric, a law firm, Cure, is sponsoring it. We have a few others that we haven't announced yet, but that's 6 to 9 and kind of, limited by the number of folks we can have. So it's already filled, and it'll be investors and CEOs, but then we move into a larger warehouse at the Garage Collective. So 3 warehouses of cars, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Every morning we actually start off with an ambassador meeting. So it's amazing, Don. We have a program where members can volunteer to help each other, and we've got over 30 that are willing to spend a day mirroring another member and helping them connect within the bullpen. Just assign me to somebody. So every day we're going to start with an ambassador meeting, then we move into an investor meeting, life science investors. So Monday is women investors, 2 is BIPOC investors, and Wednesday is international investors. We move into partnering lunches from 11 until 3. The car show is going on during that time. You'll be having meetings in between these cars. The tables are between the cars. Just a really unique, fun way to invite maybe a partner to come see you. We move into a happy hour each day. Tuesday, we have a big party called the Whip Party. A whip is a styled car. It's another name for a styled car. But there's a few other fun kind of entendres there that we're playing out at this Whip Party. And so we'll go pretty late on Tuesday night. And something for everybody, I would say. Day 1 is Rare Disease Day. Day 2 is Tools and Services. Day 3 is AI and Healthcare. You don't have to be interested in AI to be an attendee of Day 3, but that's what most folks are going to be talking about. So our members get to decide who comes in, and our sponsors get to decide who comes in. On our website, there's a request and invite button. If you're out there checking it out, put your information in. If you are a senior executive or an investor, it's quite likely you're going to get a pass to come into the bullpen. If you're not, it's quite likely you're not. That's the way that this club works. We want to be able to turn around and talk to peers and share the things that we talked about earlier in this podcast. There are no booths. There's no brochures, as I said before. There's no salespeople. It's pretty cool. It's relaxed, and we're talking about really deal maker topics.
So what do you envision as the future of the bullpen? I mean, where do you see all of this going? I mean, it seems to me like these events, obviously have been sort of monumental. Your first JP Morgan, then now your recent JP Morgan, as well as this one at the Garage Collective at Bio. Just curious, where do you see this leading to, and what is your hope for the future?
Well, I want to stick to the main mantra that we have, which is find somebody to help, repeat. So if we're doing something that doesn't fit that mantra, helping somebody and then making it repeatable, I don't want to do it. And there's no shortage of good ideas for the bullpen, and it's exciting and stressful at the same time when everybody wants to give you an idea as to how to improve and move forward. And we do have some room to evolve. We are just starting to bring on staff full time and grow our membership. We have 200 members now that are paid members that we need to really cater to and improve. And then we'll start to grow this thing. I've been told, hey, let's start offering services for investor relations or for regulatory, or partner up with a law firm, or start selling things through the bullpen, just doesn't feel comfortable to me. I think that we become transactional, and that's what the bullpen becomes. So I would say, hey, there's room for that, for our partners to come in and provide those services. Just bullpen's not going to be, um, not necessarily even a teacher. I'm not looking for building programs that educate. Although that's important to me. The DEI initiative that we have, I don't necessarily want to become a DEI content developer, but I do want to be a DEI, let's say, power center, where folks who are leaders in that space come to work with other leaders. So it's all about our club members and continuing to add value to the mission of helping each other. And along the way, people are bringing the most amazing resources to you. Don, I'll mention, I talked about this yesterday. This concept of the press room was you pushing and saying, we have a lot to do in promoting these stories. It's all about getting it in front of the right people, and you're right. And you came honestly with an open heart and said, I don't need to make any money doing this, Christian. This is my passion. I want to teach people to do it right. I do have some services. Sure, in the long run, maybe I find some new clients, but the opportunity is great. Let's do this. When I stay open to people like you, leaders like you, the club keeps getting better. So I want to own the stuff that right now is in front of me and do a really great job, and then be open to other leaders that bring wonderful things to us.
Yeah, well, so I mean, I just to reciprocate back, right? I mean, yesterday in one presentation of kind of who people were and things like that, a company that I was involved with, I found two other people that might actually be able to help us. And so, again, I see this sort of multiplication factor happening, as well inside of the organization, and to me, it just is a beneficial place to be as well. So there are a few other questions that I have that are going to be more centered on you as we sort of close out the podcast today. So the first one is, what's the greatest leadership advice that you've ever received?
I think the biggest challenge that we're going to have as leaders is who to take advice from. Honestly,
Mm.
Advice is, it's abundant, and I've taken wrong advice from folks I thought were pretty smart and didn't have my best interest or the team's interest in mind. So I think that really is something that you need a few reps, right? You need to get some bad advice before you know how to accept the good advice, because that's painful and it resonates, and we don't want to make that a mistake again. So I would say this: my advice for recently is be careful who you bring onto your cap table and who you put on your board. I always say that I think it's a really bad idea to take money from friends and family in a life science startup. I would also say if they don't know a key term for your business, they need to be explained something that's core to your business. Don't take money from them. It's going to be a constant explanation, and they likely cannot move your business forward. And then finally, the folks you take money from, however impressive they may be, make sure they've gone through the fire. If they've been at a PE group and moved transactional money around, but maybe never started a company, that's not a good person for a seed round board. I would even say don't get a board if you're in a seed round. They may be impressive, wealthy, accomplished people, but because they've had success in other areas of life sciences, even, it doesn't translate to what you're doing early. And there's other applications there. People who have been successful in other stages of companies than what you're in don't always make the best board members. And, beware of the folks that have the academic titles out there that are really just figureheads and don't move you forward. So your job as a CEO is to bring resources to the wonderful people who work for you, and to the partners who invest in you, and to the industry folks that rely on you. So take advice um, from the right people if you can, but reflect upon it before taking action.
Well, thank you for sharing that because I think I do think it's important as well, and I feel like for the companies that are out there, that are fledgling companies, I'm sure get a lot of advice throughout their journey, and yeah, it's important to sort of have that filter in place. What inspires you?
It's I have to say my family. I've always been like I thought when I was a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? It was a baseball player and a dad. That's what I wanted to do. So I have three boys and a wonderful wife. She's also an entrepreneur, and that is my inspiration. I mean, in so many different directions: fear, love. And the fear is, as an entrepreneur, can I serve my family? And it's scary, and it really motivates me to put in sometimes crazy hours because I need to do that. So that's a motivator. But then love, I want my children to be proud of me personally, and my wife to be proud of me, and that this space that we're working in is something to be proud of. And I look around at the people in the bullpen, and I'm surrounded by, I mean, stars, in my opinion. You go to, you think about professional sports, and a lot of my friends went on to play professional sports, and they have this kind of flair, and it's empty for some of those folks. The athletes, the intellectual athletes in our space, are contributing, and they leave legacies that move
Yeah.
mankind forward. And it's a superhero thing, right? And
Yeah.
I'm motivated by being around you guys.
Yeah, it's a just a great inspiration for me as well. Just seeing all of the contributions of people like Thomas Forrest Farber Horsch, who's been in multiple startups and successful exits, and just superstars like that. It's I mean it's amazing to sort of see individuals like that contributing in our space. What
Well,
concerns you? Oh, go ahead.
uh,
Go ahead. Yeah.
thanks for bringing Thomas's name up. I want to dote on him a little bit. That man has had a life. If you get to know the members of the bullpen, uh, in his case, you'll find out he was an AP journalist who did a bunch of work out of the Latin America office, and quite outstanding coverage and awards. And he moved into life sciences, and I think crazy numbers like 21 startups, 14 exits, and 7 unicorns. And he doesn't need to be spending time with guys like me. I don't know how I can move him forward, but he's so attached to this idea of giving back, and this is an authentic way to do it. I've been on the phone with him, uh, emotionally talking through our lives, losses of parents, um, working through this board discussion I just mentioned to you. This is the life enriching stuff that we all need. And Thomas is one of those leaders who says, I'm here for you. And it's just, that's the way he is. You can feel it when you're around him. That's who I want to work with. That's who I want to spend the rest of my career serving. So thank you, Thomas. And for people who want to know what the ideal member is, it is a Thomas Forrest Farb Horsch. We put him in the Hall of Fame at the JP Morgan conference, along with Michael Hill, a former CTO of Medtronic. And these people are the core of what we do. They taught me how to serve.
Yeah. What concerns you?
Concerns. I'm concerned about the macros. I would say, what's happening with the turmoils globally within our own country, and how that trickles down to seed round funding, to exits, to cancer cures moving forward. So the macros scare me. I think, I other than that, I don't know if life could be better, living in the United States, having the democracy that we have, having the support from the government to move medicine forward, having a diversity, a melting pot of ideas of people that can work together. We still have so much strength here in the U.S. and at the same time, the flip side of the coin is it's very, very chaotic, and the markets are unsure how to respond. The IPO market has been, I say, constipated for 2 years now. It's because of the macros, and because of that, it's difficult for M&A to happen, and that trickles down, actually, to, believe it or not, valuations that are skinny of companies, and it makes it tough for us to get funded. So that worries me, and I'm praying for some stability, and I don't know what that means, Don. Read that however you wish, but that would be my prayer if I was going to put it out there.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And last question, what excites you?
I'm so excited to get one-on-one with the Bullpen members and hear from them and connect with them. I think it's quite thrilling. Now, I'm pretty an extroverted person. If I walk into a room with 100 people, you hear this analogy, I actually get excited to meet every one of them. And it's a strange thing, but that's thrilling and exciting for me just to hear the story. And so at the core level, I might not be very good at monetizing that feeling that I have, but I am, I think, authentic about my approach and being excited about meeting them.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, and I'm excited to get to be with the members and be with you, during the event at Bio. For anybody that's not checked out, Bullpen Ventures, please go to bullpen.ventures and check things out as well. Thank you, Christian, for being on the Life Science Success Podcast. I really appreciated you being here and for sharing the story of Bullpen. I think it's important, and it will be an important contributor to the overall mission of what a lot of these companies are trying to carry forward in life sciences. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for coaching me. I know that how much you've kind of shared with me, keep inching me forward, improving my skill set. So I appreciate you too, Don.
Thank you for listening to Life Science Success. For complete details about this podcast, including show notes, how to get in touch with guests, and more episodes, please visit www.lifesciencesuccess.com. If there's someone you'd like for us to invite to the show as a guest, please let me know by sending me a message at the podcast website. Please click subscribe on your favorite podcast app, share the podcast, or tell a friend about it, and last but not least, rate the podcast. Thank you again.